Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to another chapter of Free Will, my memoir. If you happen to be here for the first time, please check out my channel and you can go to the very beginning of the book, the preface before chapter 1, and get caught up, and we'll be finished with the book within a few more videos. So hopefully you'll listen along just like everybody else that's been following along. And for those of you that have been keeping up with this story, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to share this with people that understand. And so last video was pretty emotional. We talked about, I really covered the biggest loss of leaving the organization and the brutally painful part of, not having my mom in my life anymore. But this week we're going to be going into chapter 23, where I kind of really, go into how I recovered and rehabbed, so to speak. To me, people that are in this organization, it kind of, I guess I want to use it as an analogy. It's kind of like being addicted to heroin or something. It's like people that are addicted to a drug that is damaging them and which creates chaos and hurts the other people in their life. No amount of reasoning and logic will help them to break that addiction. And at times when I've, been so heartbroken over some of the losses that I have had to encounter with leaving, looking at it that way has really kind of helped me a lot. It really has, because I was just kind of thinking recently about the fact, because I don't think I've ever told you guys that. I don't think I've ever put it clearly in the book. I was never disfellowshipped. I didn't disassociate. And I know there are a lot of opinions about whether you should do that or not. In my opinion, everybody should decide what's best for themselves. And for me, that organization, their rules mean nothing to me. Their opinions mean nothing to me. So I didn't feel any need to write a letter. I feel like writing my book was made it pretty clear I don't want anything to do with it. And now I'm putting it on camera that I don't want to be that way. So it's pretty clear I don't, I just didn't feel the need to do that. There was no one I even felt connected to. I did talk privately to a friend or two who, towards the very end, who kind of told me, well, don't assume that I'm going to react the way you think I'm going to assume. But when I very gently kind of skirted around the issue that I didn't want to do it anymore, that was the last I'd heard of them. They just never contacted me again. And I think it's not because they're cruel people, not because they're unkind, not because their heart is evil, nothing like that. That's my opinion. I feel, still feel they're loving, kind people. It's just like, I don't know if anybody, that's listening has had like an addict in your life. It's like you can try to shake them and say, you're ruining your life. You're ruining our life. You can try to do anything to help them save themselves and also keep you from getting hurt. But until they're ready, until, for some people, they say they hit rock bottom. And until they decide for themselves that they're going to get help and look into this issue, it's got such a grip on them. And that's how I feel about the people that are in there. It helps me to be a little kinder, which I always want to be with regard to the people that are in the organization. Because reality is, I stayed in it till I was 46 because everything I had ever been surrounded with and taught told me I had to. And, we all know it's a cult, it's this cycle we're sucked in. And so as much as I don't want to be hard on myself for having stayed in it that long, I also want to be compassionate and understanding with the people that have not woken up from, the reality of what this organization is. So anyway, that was kind of long-winded, but I just wanted to get that out. So let's go into chapter 43. And it's kind of a long chapter, so I think we'll just do one today, and kind of see some of the ways that I went to rehab after I left my church. So now, months after living in Oregon, after opening the store and still raising my teens, I was busy and felt the love and support of my kids, my dad and my stepmom, and of course my sisters at a distance. But the intensity of the loss, the divorce, the move, and my former faith evaporating into thin air was still working its way out from inside me. When you go through trauma and are learning how to cope, your brain wants to tell you to get over it. Oh, and guess what? Everybody around you wants you to be over it too. Why? Because they love you and don't want to see you feel sad or suffer pain. I felt pressure to move on and get over what I felt, what felt to me was like a world war. The pressure at times would make me put on a happy face even when I was aching inside. I was tired of feeling like a pity case. I wanted those still left in my life to think I was fine. I also wanted to be the strong anchor for my kids so that they would feel secure and sense that everything was going to be all right. I did my spiritual practice. I meditated every day. I exercised regularly and took good care of myself. I felt healing happening, but not as quickly as I thought it would. There were mornings still that I would wake up, and before I could even open my eyes, I was crying so hard, crying like a baby in a crib. I wouldn't even know why or what exactly had propelled this emotion. Was it a dream I'd had that I couldn't remember? Was I cracking up? I didn't fight it. I would let it pour out. When I had been seeing a therapist named Gabby before I left California, she told me how valuable crying was to healing. She said that the pain and trauma has to come out blood, sweat, or tears. So I allowed and accepted these emotional bouts as intense therapy tending to my wounds. I was learning to be gentler with my feelings. I was still learning to practice the art of allowing my feelings, not trying to push them away, dismiss them, or snuff them out. This was something that I had only learned about after leaving the church, of course. My experience in life, in religion, and in marriage had taught me to be tough and strong for everyone else, to smother my feelings, deny them. I had unconsciously treated my emotions as invalid. I was told that my feelings were wrong. I was told not to feel that way, that I shouldn't feel that way so many times. But I bucked up against it even at that time, because my feelings didn't feel like water coming out of a faucet that I could just turn off. It made me frustrated and stymied to suffocate my feelings. So now I was free to feel and express what was really going on in me. Through therapy and self-education, I practiced the things I thought would vanquish all that old brainwashing. It was an amazing experience to recognize that not only were my feelings real and valid, but that they were trustworthy and could help me commandeer the twisted and gnarled highway that my life had become. It was empowering to realize that my sensitivity was an asset that was helping me to heal, that being sensitive is beautiful, Instead of being criticized for it or viewing it as a weakness, now I viewed this sensitive, delicate part of me as a gift that I could use to help myself and others. I was grateful for that gift, though I could fall deeply into sadness randomly. For the most part, I felt free. I was living honestly. I felt relief in being who I truly was for the first time in my life. I had chosen free will. It was heady. It felt powerful. It felt peaceful. Focusing on this freedom gave me the courage to keep moving forward fearlessly through the highs and lows. I earnestly worked at doing daily positive mantras and affirmations with the intention of creating and maintaining a positive frame of mind and joy. Instead of self-criticism and self-discipline, I chose to create loving, easy habits which brought relief and peace to what at times was a tumultuous existence. On awakening each morning after my regular greeting from my precious little tabby, I begin my daily mantras. I am love. Love I am. I am peace. Peace I am. I am divine. Divine I am. I am free. Free I am. I am powerful. Powerful I am. I am love. Love I am. Even now, I rarely wake up without automatically chanting this and so much more. I love that this is a part of who I am now. Each day, I gently pushed myself to expand and explore how to be more loving to myself. I know this sounds weird or corny to some people, but that doesn't matter because it's true. I had lost so many people, dear friends, my best friend, my mom. It was as if my entire life had sat atop a table and someone had come along and swooshed it all off the table to crash to the floor and smash it to pieces. I lost my beliefs, my tribe, my home, my community. I was in mourning and learning how to grieve such a strange, overwhelming loss. Now I was on my own, working hard, being mom, and learning how to be isolated with no friends or community here in what I'd made my new home. I had to take tender care of me and be patient with myself. I had to forgive myself for the perceived mistakes I'd made in my life. I had to be a true friend to myself. If I wasn't vigilant, I could find myself easily slipping into darkness that was begging me to come in. It begged me to give up and give in. It felt like a giant magnet pulling at me to stay sad and angry. I had to fight it and kick it off of me. I intuitively knew that this darkness would do me in if I didn't make a valiant effort to reject it. This is when acceptance became more than a philosophical tenet. As I became more adept at accepting what arose, the pain eased, the darkness fled. It wasn't easy. It's one thing to talk about acceptance, but so hard to genuinely accept what is, when what is isn't what you had in mind. It took me a while to even become aware of the need for acceptance, but more than that, to be accepting took conscious effort and intention. It took continual reminding and practice. It meant breaking the habit of railing against what I thought I didn't want. I'd spent years numbing myself from that which caused me pain and discomfort. But now I was living free, as I wished. I was choosing my life. Yet my choices had brought me to a place of such discomfort. This confused me. I thought it would all be pleasure and joy and fun, but it doesn't always work that way. I had to recover and rebound from what I had been through. I kept thinking I wanted someone to comfort me and that I wanted friends and good times to distract me. But what I really needed was to feel what I was experiencing, not be distracted or numb it, but face it and feel it. I felt that my emotions were signals to my soul, that my soul was not only healing, but evolving. These signals were beeping and flashing, telling me I was going in the right direction, that I was on the right path, my own. To grow and move forward, I knew it was important to pay special heed to these intense emotions that I was experiencing. So I didn't want to evade them. I wanted to pay attention to them, look at them and examine them, swim around in them. At times, it felt like I was swimming with sharks and jellyfish, with the sharp sting and bite of so much loss and the rejection of my true self by people I loved. Through a process that felt like forever, I accepted for real that I indeed sequestered myself in a strange land by choice. Internally, in my soul, I knew I had so much curating to do. I knew that this time and what I was feeling and processing had a purpose. The foggy confusion of pain began to dissipate, and I came to comprehend more clearly why I was here in this space and time. I had wanted my freedom. I now had freedom from the religious prison I had been in. I was free from a relationship that no longer served my highest good. I was free to do what I wanted to do with my life. I could be me. But at times I felt scared and even unworthy of the task. Accepting and recognizing that I had brought myself this far gave me the courage and the wherewithal to know that I could keep moving forward and create the life that I wanted. In the creation of this new life, being as kind to myself as I would be to any of my loved ones became my new habit. Do you remember a bit that George Carlin did in the 70s about masturbation? He recounted that when he jacked off, he would treat himself right. Set the tone, dinner and a movie for one, bring home flowers, be coy with yourself, woo yourself. Well, he was being silly, but he had a good point. Ha! Seriously, though, I'm not talking about masturbation now, but there is something to the treating yourself right concept, even to the extent that George Carlin described it. I had come from being married to someone who adored me for decades. I was surrounded with friends and family and always had an overstuffed social calendar. Now, in sharp contrast, I lived in a place that I hardly knew anybody. I had no friends to speak of and nothing going on outside of work. Out of survival, I learned to treat myself right. I did buy myself flowers regularly and still do. I learned to celebrate even my smallest accomplishments. I treated myself to beautiful dinners for one. I played my favorite music and lit many candles every night. I treated myself most nights like I was having a date. Not to warm myself up for masturbation. I had to beat you to that joke. I did this not just because I had spent most of the last decade doing thoughtful things for other people. I did this because I needed to learn how. It was time I realized the value and benefit of taking tender care of myself. It was okay that I didn't have someone special to do nice things for me. Here in Oregon, I did have opportunities to have that. Offers, possibilities, propositions, and proposals. But after almost 25 years of marriage, you know what doesn't work. I wasn't going to jump out of the frying pan and into the fire. So I chose to stay on my own, at least for a while. It would have been easy to slide quickly into another relationship. I craved comfort and tenderness. There was no one to see me cry, let alone comfort me. I had times then, and still do sometimes, where sadness overwhelms me. I'd lie on my bed and cry. I found myself aching and longing for comfort and realized I was the only one there. I wrapped my own arms around myself, hugged myself, and rocked myself like I'd rocked my own babies when they were little. It feels a little embarrassing to admit this openly, but it's powerful. I admit this because it helped me. I comforted myself. I could help me feel better. I was learning how to love myself as deeply as I loved other people. It's quite shocking to realize that I could comfort myself. I am a good comforter. I always have been. Why wouldn't I be able to console myself with the same skills that I would use to comfort a loved one? I discovered how to gently ease myself to the other side of the pain. I would tearfully console myself, saying, "This pain is healing me. Feel it. Cry. It's okay to acknowledge it. It hurts too much. I can't take it. I can't keep taking it. I know, my love, but it will stop in a while. Just breathe." The pain always stops. I have to remember the pain always stops. People talk about loving yourself, that you can't love anybody else unless you love yourself. But practically speaking, how do we do that? I was teaching myself how day by day. I continued educating myself more and more about how to be at peace, how to be happy. I wanted to feel safe and surrounded in love. I was at the business of creating a beautiful life. After having opened my mind to the world of metaphysics with my amazing Sixth Sense classes back in California, the floodgates had been unlatched, and I welcomed learning a variety of spiritual paradigm which would keep me tracking and traversing in this quest for a beautiful life. I read everything I could get my hands on by Eckhart Tolle and learned the importance of being in the present moment. I put the audio versions of his books on my phone and flooded the beautiful ideas into me while driving or hiking. This was a huge help for me. It was like the foundation of survival at this early stage. Being present in the now is the most effective way for me to stop any overreaction or overthinking in the wake of challenging circumstances. As I've tried to share this concept, and I have tried to share this concept with my children, it is an instant relief from worry, stress, or anxiety. I read Gary Zukav's The Seat of the Soul. Amazing. Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. So good. So many authors and teachers helped me along the journey. Marianne Williamson, Elizabeth Gilbert, Cheryl Strayed. I listened to so many spiritual teachers on YouTube like Matt Kahn, Alan Watts, Lee Harris, Cryon as channeled by Lee Carroll. I practiced guided meditations online with the likes of Wayne Dyer, Kelly Howell, and Rasa Lukashute. I learned many new methods of meditation, chanting, and breathing. Sundays were my favorite day of the week back then. I'd rush home after work to watch Super Soul Sunday, which was always saved to my DVR. So many of the shows and guests on Super Soul Sunday were informative and motivating in my exploration of spirituality and philosophy and science. My soul hungered for every morsel of spiritual and emotional nourishment I could find to help me in the gentle care of my evolution and awakening. All these venues were a benefit. They all had something important for me to hear, whether I agreed with it or not. When not working, if I had time on my hands, I used to sink my teeth into that which I love and interested me. I created my own spiritual habits that continue to change and evolve as I learn. That's something that became very clear, that there were no rules. What a concept. I could take it all in. I could pick and choose what to focus on. It was like that proverbial all-you-can-eat buffet of spiritual fabulousness. I only picked what looked and sounded good to me. If anything smelled like it was judgmental, I dropped it like a hot potato. If anything said it was the end-all, be-all, I questioned it all the more. Some might say that you can't make up your own religion, that God or a single book must dictate the one and only true path to truth. To those I say, have at it, but it's not for me. I think that there is no better barometer of truth than that which is within me. The source of all life, whether you call it God or spirit or the divine or universal energy, it's what we came from. We were made or evolved from this source. I think we are made or we evolve with the understanding within ourselves to recognize truth when we feel it. I personally feel that we are a part of that source and it is a part of us. Therefore, we've had that divine wisdom inside us all along. For me, every truth, statement, and belief has to be measured and scrutinized only by my own personal evaluator. If it doesn't feel or sound true, if it doesn't reverberate inside me like truth, then it's not for me. I don't care how convinced anybody is of something, they will not sway me unless it rocks my soul with certainty. I began to recognize that I knew truth when I felt it. I began to trust my intuition. When I was young, I thought it was good, that I was a good judge of character and that I had good gut instincts. These were my intuition talking to me from within. It was so nice to know this voice once and for all. It was so good not to be crowding out this voice with other people's opinions and prognostications. My voice vibrates just for me, and only I can hear it. I trust myself wholly to know what does, or even more importantly, what does not resonate with my spirit. Okay, so any of you that wonder, where my spiritual path led, it's definitely still in a constant state of evolution. And I like that. It's so empowering to feel that you don't have to have the answer. You don't have to know the truth. To me, it's just so clear, that we have it within ourselves, that we can sense it within ourselves. It's like, if any of you are parents, it's like, I've taken such pleasure, and of course I didn't start until my kids were like 11 and 14, but letting them know they had a good heart. Their heart was beautiful already. They didn't need some religion, some book, or dare I say, some God telling them what the rules were, telling them what was right and wrong. Because as I was saying, and again, I don't have a belief system. This is how I feel. This is what I sense today as we speak. But I feel that, whatever we were created or evolved from, it's such a lovely energy. Because that's what I know about myself. I am just love at my core. This is who I am. And I shouldn't be saying so much because I'm probably saying some of this stuff in my next chapters. But I just feel like we're all loving beings, that we have that source energy inside of us. So we're just as loving and powerful and beautiful as that. So that's the basis for where I'm at spiritually. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about in tandem with this chapter was one of the things for me growing up. I had such a Pollyanna beginning, when my parents were still married and my dad was an elder, and all we did was talk about the paradise and the good news, and life was, kind of goody two shoes and Pollyanna, but it was cheerful and lovely. Well, see if I can articulate this. I realized fairly recently, as an adult, an old adult, that recognizing that life is so filled with beauty. I mean, the planet we live on is so gorgeous, and people can just be so beautiful and amazing and lovely. But life also gets ugly. It gets really brutal and hard, but that's part of the experience. And I think, it kind of goes into acceptance that I was talking about in this chapter, is being okay with drama, being okay with messiness is a great thing to learn. The love doesn't melt away. The love is always there, even in the messiest points. As a matter of fact, I'm sure some of you can attest to the fact that sometimes in your darkest hour, that's when you feel the intense love, the incredible connection and being one with everything, like source of life and every other human and the planet and the universe. Okay, I did not smoke pot before I did this, but I'm just saying, that was a really hard thing for me. I witnessed, after not being a Jehovah's Witness, I experienced worldly people that had to get dragged into some very, very hard, difficult circumstances in life. I'm talking about messy things with addiction, suicide, death, crazy things, and witnessing how those brutal, harsh things in life can be handled with grace. When we know that we are loved and we know there's love all around us and we stay focused on that, it eases us through the other side of the trauma. It's not to say we don't have to cry or scream or get angry at times, but kind of being a little more realistic about the experience of life and how round it is. It's not just, this. For me, I just feel like, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I feel like there was a psychology to the way that I was raised, that everything was supposed to be okay. It was like from here to the paradise. Yeah, we had the little hump of the Great Tribulation, but we'll get over that. But being in real life and not being in a cult, you're just like, life can be messy. It can be beautiful and fun and amazing. But it can be messy sometimes, and we can get through the suffering, And the easiest way, I'm not a Buddhist, but I love a lot of the tenets of the Buddhists, and they represent such peace for me. And one of the things that they say is that suffering comes from attachment. And so when we get overly attached to anything, that can create suffering for us. It could be overly attached to a person, overly attached to a religious view, overly attached to our political views, the right and the wrong, and the overly attached to the idea of how things should be. You know, that is the basis of suffering. When we just allow life to come, and I mean, we're creating life too, but allowing and accepting, that's, for me, that's a big part of being happy a lot more of the time. So hope I didn't ramble too much. Thank you again for being here. Wishing you peace and love.